Excuse me, it's good morning, 9 o'clock. I now call the Central Water Board Finance Administration Committee to order. Deputy Special Counsel, would you please call the roll?
Director Sloss,
I'm here.
Director Howard, Director Pacio,
Here.
Director Barnes.
Here.
Director Kennedy.
Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. I will now proceed with our presentation item from our CFO, Gray Lewis, financial summary update. Gray?
All right, thanks everyone. Good to update the committee on the numbers. We're going to talk about the September financials, and Susanna Kirby's here. She was our controller, now she's the interim chief customer service, is going to help talk about some of the new processes with HGI, who's looking at customer high bill disputes now effective in September. So for September, monthly revenue is 19.7 million, is trailing budget as we discussed. And once we looked into this more, seeing that any customer credits that get issued in the month, which we're issuing a lot more customer credits, talk about showing as reducing current period revenue. So that's a driver here. And I talked with.
Sorry, can I ask a question about that? That kind of hides what's going on to a degree, or am I misunderstanding? I mean, I would, I'm not an accountant, so I don't want to get,
Yeah,
CPA,
no,
I
it'll have to
don't
be
want to get in
separated
trouble here,
out.
but it seems to me I'd rather have a line item that says forgiven than just having it reduce revenue.
Yeah, it'll have to be sorted out. I talked with our audit partner, for our year-end stuff, we'll have to be able to separate out what's 2023 and earlier, and then just if it was in 2024, then you're reducing revenue in the same period that you billed the customer. Not as much an issue.
My issue is not the timing thing. It is, we bill somebody and they don't pay the bill. It's adjudicated that they don't have to pay the bill. We thought they owed it. So to reduce revenue, in other words, instead of reducing revenue, I think it should be an expense or a contra income item. Somewhere we can see it is what all I'm really getting at.
I agree. I mean, I think from a also perception point of view, like that's a very interesting line and it's consistent with kind of what we've been moving forward, right? So it will make sense in public audiences, for example.
Right.
Sure, there's some rule about what I'm saying that.
Yeah, it's we'd like to see the exact nature of the credit, but and understand included in that might be just a regular correction to a bill or some issue that the water board made a mistake and corrected the bill for the customer. But we're interested in the same thing too. What you might classify differently as true forgiveness for some reason. But that will require, going through all the details of customer credits. That's not historically something that had been done in previous years. And just for context, I was going to share. So year to date in 2024, we've issued 30.2 million customer credits. In all of 2023, it was 20.6 million. All of 2022, 15.1 million. So all
Double 2022 and 50% higher than 2023?
Yeah. And that is something, it is obviously, we've been talking about this for quite a while. We have a lot of past due receivables that go back years on active customers. We want to, clean them off the books. So when you do, in the periods that you do that, you are going to have these big numbers.
Is that time limited? Like, can you sort of project, like, is next year going to look better because we're cleaning up so much this year?
Better.
Well, I mean, that's the task at hand is to be able to separate out the quote cleanup and get it on the appropriate line items like you're referring to, so that you can still see regular 2024 normal revenue without all this other noise. Right. So it'll be a big project to separate all that, but we know what's going on. We talk to HGI daily, so I think it's just going to be part of this cleanup.
But is it possible, and I'm going to drop this this time, because is it possible instead of showing our month-to-date actual at 19.7, showing our month-to-date actual before whatever the forgiveness was and then a line beneath it, that says what the forgiveness was, because it looks as though we're $4 million down, excuse me, we're $22 million down on a year-to-date basis, and so are people moving out of their homes, are people not using water? I think it skews that as
Yeah.
well, so.
Yeah, we need to get the data, but yes, we need to be able to drill down into the pieces, but it's not something we have at our fingertips right now, but something we're working on.
Okay, thank you.
On the drainage revenues, is a tracking pretty close to budget, 65.8 million year-to-date. Other revenues, 15.4 million. We're 13 million over the budget. That's primarily our fair share revenue, which, you know, we do expect a pretty good bump here in the fourth quarter with the October, the concerts, all the activity related to that. So that will help us, we believe. On the operating expenses, in the month of September, we had 35.3 million, about 1.8 million over the budget. That was primarily in drainage, which had 9.1 million of general, in the large category was over general plant maintenance for the drainage stations. So overall, the bottom line for September, revenue less adjusted expenses, 81.3 million, compared to the budget of 59.1, and then September 2023 was 113.7 million. I'll keep going on. Collections, we saw a rebound in October. It was 24.3 million. September was 19.2 million, and this was again, September was 2 days where the Hurricane Francine were not open, so that's affecting several different numbers. So good rebound in October. Hopeful the next couple months will keep it strong. You know, it looks like in last year, you know, a little bit of a tendency to see some dropping in the 2 months around the holidays, but with all of our touch points to reach out to customers, promise pay and all those, hopeful, you know, for a strong finish.
What was that 24 million? What do you think that was attributed to? That's a big jump.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
I think it's the best one I've seen.
Yeah, partially the days lost in September that were closed, but it's difficult to really point to why certain months get higher, but that's what came through. So,
Because that's the highest month since January. Oh,
right.
The highest month? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So to date?
Yep, that's right.
You also have to think every month we're gaining smart meters too, which is helping increase revenue
Okay.
as well, so you would expect it to.
Right. On customer receivables, we continue to see the high balances. We do see some reduction in October with a lot of the HDI credits. This is an area where we're actually kind of revisiting the reporting that we do on this with some new personnel, and really, I guess, key metric at the bottom of the page, the payment plans. We're up to 12,556 people on the payment plans. That's over 13,000 when we get to October, the 89% retention rate. So our primary focus is trying to tap, you know, that would leave roughly 13 to 14,000 customers that are not on any type of promise pay installment plan. So in encouraging our customers to go to the website, sign up for the installment plan, and start paying back that debt. And then next, if we could go to that other deck, Susanna's going to talk about the HGI update, which in terms of acronyms, Hammerman Gaynor, that's the vendor hired by the city council, now takes a look at all the high bill complaints.
Sorry, what does the HGI stand for?
Hammerman and Gaynor, Inc.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. I wanted to just provide just some updates from the last 2 months. We started with the collaboration with HGI. September 6th is when it went live. And so through the end of October, They've made just over 2,800 decisions where they've rendered credit or no credit, resulting in about $7.3 million in credits to customers. Just some facts here underneath, 57 of those decisions resulted in no credit. You can see about 165 were under $100, 126 over 10,000. Average is around 2,600. The median is 806. Some, of course, things that are still in play is that if the customer or Sewage and Water Board does not agree with HGI's decision, they can take it to arbitration. So in September, we had 15 accounts that we are going to request arbitration on. October, we are still reconciling and pulling out the accounts we want to send to arbitration.
Have we, that's a hell of a lot of money. Have we got, and I don't want to dominate the conversation here, but I mean, 57 are no and 28, 25 are yes. I couldn't compute that ratio, but it's a lot. Do we have a grid or a matrix or what, do we have how are they operating? I mean, have they told us how they've decided whether to forgive something or not? Is it objective, I presume, and are they giving that to us?
Not just the complete justification. They do provide the customer with their decision. How we get their decision is just a list with the customer and the amount credited. And the step that we can take if we don't agree is
The arbitration.
The arbitration.
The arbitrator hadn't been funded yet, I don't think, right? Or is that done? Regardless, I am uncomfortable with $7.3 million being written off and whatever 57 accounts. I'd sure like to see more information on that. I don't mean from you, Susanna,
Sure.
but from the people who are doing the work. I think we need to have comprehensive reporting on how they're getting there.
Yeah, so we had a conversation yesterday, and Renee Laprioli is going to try to coordinate a meeting with Curo and HGI and us so we can try to have a better understanding of maybe some of the methodology behind their decisions and have regular meetings. I mean, I speak to some of them on a fairly regular basis, but not, don't really hear the decisions, you know.
Yeah, I don't mean everything's not up and up, but it's a lot of money. And a very, very few number of them who aren't given credit. So I just think we need periodic reporting, and maybe I should direct.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
need at least monthly reporting on what's going on and why how it's happening.
We had several meetings at the kind of build-up or setup stage, and then we requested meetings to talk about exactly that. So we have it on the list to get with them and waiting to hear back, so.
I mean, in the meantime, we do have, I'm sorry, just to finish that one, we do have kind of reports with what I would describe as very brief justification per case. We're happy to share that with you, but it doesn't really tell the story for what real justification was considered to.
Well, I'm assuming
the credit.
they're only hearing one side of the story, which is the person who was the aggrieved party, right?
And as far as we know, there's no disputes by the customers, correct? And
Oh, correct. No, yeah, the customer, as far as I know, no customer has requested arbitration outside of HGI.
No, that's not what I meant. I meant the customer who wants a credit goes and makes their case. There's no other side to that. That may not be a justifiable other side, but it's just, I go there and say, this bill isn't right, this is why. No one from here says, yes, it is. We talked to that guy 28 times, or gal. Anyway, just
no, I
just like to
understand.
know more about how it's happening. If it was $55, I wouldn't.
We do too.
Yeah, okay.
Agreed.
So I think that a formal request, I think if we,
No, I just had a basic question, you know, what's our internal assessment of how this process is working so far? And you may not be able to answer that, or it may not be prudent to answer that now. But I'm curious, internally, how do we see this? And given all the numbers, we may be locked in, but really, is there any way to address this or not? Or are we looking at the possibility of those kind of numbers as we move forward?
I think we can look at it in a few different ways. I think my group, what we're doing is we have our own very detailed tracking mechanism of fields that we want captured so that we can review everything, at least on our end, from where it's coming from and justification or not, so we can make the decisions for the best of the Sewerage and Water Board and the customer. I think I can, if we think about overall in the history of bill disputes with Sewerage and Water Board, it's been about under 3% of the population that has actively disputed their bill or requested investigations. We've hit that number with this. There probably was quite a bit of cleanup that needed to happen and maybe a reset. My expectation would be that now that that has kind of happened, we might see this over the next, through this year, but then you would expect it to trend down because in theory, the disputes have been addressed,
Like with
right?
smart meters and so forth, eventually that
Exactly.
number would be less and less.
Yes. The things that I
Potentially.
do want to keep an eye on are, one, customers that seem to probably have an active leak going on and it needs field investigation that I'm not sure that HGI is catching. And so that would be one good reason to have a meeting with them to kind of talk them through that. So we're not just crediting the customer every month, but we're addressing the problem. And then also smart meters, really having a good understanding of agreeing on smart meter data.
Give me just 1 minute. Let me recognize Director Kennedy is here. Thanks, Chad.
I just want,
That answered your question. So.
Yeah,
I just want to say that I really appreciate that context because I think it's hard to like just look at the numbers.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you actually are thinking about some of the stuff that you're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we get the information we need to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also the context, there's, say 26,000 customers with past due, 13,000 on payment plans. But if HDI is able to go through, call it 14,000 people and get it reset once and for all, I think that would be successful. So we're trying to partner with them and work together to attack this pretty big problem. At the same time, we also have Protiviti, to mention, as a consultant working with us on programmatically being able to look at, groups of customers that would be eligible for an additional credit to take care of old balances.
The smart meters, is this the right time to ask about that? Good.
Check all the smart meters.
Seems to be.
Thanks for queuing me up. So the other thing I wanted to talk to you guys briefly about this morning is smart meters and kind of collections, revenue, outstanding amounts, delinquencies, and a path forward to kind of get us moving in the right direction. So as a reminder, we began billing smart meter actual reads April 29th of this year. Through the end of October, we've billed $34.5 million and have collected just over $12 million. I'm sorry, 12 million is outstanding, I apologize. And of that 12 million, just over 6 million is what we would consider past due, so past 30 days, which is about 18%. I just put down here because I thought it would be good to understand when we look at the customers who are past due. I know something that Executive Director Corbin's been, wanting to know too, was were these customers delinquent before, but they're paying their smart meter, are they just still delinquent? Or they knew, kind of what the breakdown of that. And so 80+% of these customers were delinquent prior and remain delinquent. So smart meter or not, they're just not paying, right?
I didn't follow that.
Oh,
A
okay.
delinquency followed them into smart meter?
Yes.
Or they're
Their
delinquent
behavior,
since?
their
Huh?
behavior continues.
Right, yeah, so that they were delinquent prior with a mechanical meter. They got a smart meter
But-
and they're still delinquent.
But I still don't, so the $6 million is all bills since the smart meter?
Correct.
It's no prior balances,
Oh,
what I'm at?
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
okay. So that's a lot, 20%?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna turn those meters up, we turn off the water?
That's the next slide.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. No,
We're on the
it's
same
perfect.
page.
So when we did, thinking about that, it's like, what is the best process? Because now we have the data, we can move forward. And so to be in accordance with the new ordinance that's in place, what we can do is we can track specifically the smart meters. We do that by the route they're on, and we will run it. We will pull out those S routes. They'll get a 30-day letter at 30 days delinquent. And then 20 days in, they'll get a 10-day letter. And then between days 60 and 70 is when the service disconnection will be put into the system to turn them off. They will get a phone call as well. And then how we're going to help escalate that even further for priority for meter reading is a shared file between our collections department and meter reading that will establish where they need to go. So
Establish what?
establish where the meter readers need to go first, their priorities for disconnection.
Can I ask, at these different points in times when delinquency letter,
Yeah.
phone call, do they also hear again about the options for payment plans and things like
Yes.
that? Is that very much promoted?
Yeah, Promise Pay proactively reaches out with text messages, other forms of communication as soon as residential customers are delinquent. So yeah, they're kind of getting it from multiple different areas.
But to be clear, we're gonna be turning people off when they get between 60 and 70 days.
Correct.
Especially, there's a distinction I think needs to be made, and correct me if I'm wrong. We want people who have been carrying that before the smart meter to separate that, especially if they object to it or dispute it. We want them to be vocal and dispute it because that delineates that amount, but we want them to be current with the smart meter bills. And if they are, they will not be shut off, right? But we don't want them to just continue ignoring the bills and just grow the delinquency. We want to encourage them to dispute the past due, but then stay current. Then once that past due is resolved, then we're clean, both clean.
That's a lot of complicated information. Like, I feel like for a customer, I mean, I actually agree with that. So I guess I'm just keep going back to sort of how and who's communicating it, and are we sure it's understandable and all of that.
Yeah, I think, I would hope that by us sending the letter, you hope that prompts by them getting text messages, and then, kind of the last step, and maybe something to think about is moving the step up, is the phone call to the customer. So that would definitely be something to consider. So,
One last, if you don't mind, I understand that the technology is available at obviously a cost to be able to remotely turn off water. And I don't know if we can afford to do it or not, but it seems to me if we have a repeat offender, we turn them off 3 times, we're putting in a meter that we can turn off remotely, so at least,
that's talking about the Ally meter. So,
I don't know what it is, but.
yeah. So we've actually are having active conversations on whether we should purchase more. I think our current stock is just over 7,000. And so we're trying to be thoughtful about how and where to place those, and if we should make the investment to purchase.
So those 7,000 originally were designed to be installed throughout the city to help us with maintaining or monitoring pressure, in addition to the remote shutoffs and on. So there's two very key features associated with those. What we're looking for to expand that number and distribute it as evenly as we can across the city, with marrying it with historic delinquencies. So we're looking at the pricing and what the balance looks like and whether we can afford it or how much we can afford.
Great.
So we'll come to you with a change order, because that would be an additional cost to the original contract, so.
Pre-smart meter, post-smart meter, the delinquency dollar amount, how does that look? How does it compare?
So the percentage pre-smart meter was 25% of the population, between
Yeah,
20
I
and
haven't
25.
calculated exactly the way we did with that 6 million, but I guess this 18%, if we look at just regular billing, yeah, we haven't done a calculation like this to make it comparable, but this 6 million out of, if it was 69 million of all past due receivables, right now you're getting 6 million related just to smart meter bills. So that would leave your 63 million is, you know, your historical mechanical meter bills. But I think, yeah, overall, if it was at 25% for mechanical meters, this is showing, you know, data's more readily available. It's all actual reads. So you would expect the consumer payment to be a little better, which it is, 18%. But that's a good question. We'll do we ought to do a similar calculation on all mechanical meter bills, so we can share it apples to apples.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
You want to go back to that other presentation? I'll just pick up with one other item on customer arrearages.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Chart that we look at on a monthly basis, just breaking down by the different sizes of arrearages. So the first category is just customers with less than $500 so at the end of September, 10,550 had a balance of less than $500, but only about 2,700 were on a payment plan. So that's 2/3 that are not on a promise pay plan. And that's really the time to get on a payment plan so it doesn't grow into a bigger problem. So we, again, making our pitch for customers using promise pay, since it came on in February, is very easy to use, user-friendly. The other communication channels we mentioned about, it's important to communicate to people they have a past due balance. So the HGI is now in there, effective in September. Third point of communication, you know, we're having a new portal launch this month in November. So that's also going to direct people to see their account balance. So all these forms are, you know, modern technology to remind you, you know, this is something we need to take care of now before it gets into a bigger problem, versus just relying on snail mail or some piece of paper that may or may not show up once a month. So all of these are efforts to, you know, to communicate very clearly what the numbers are, what the balance due, and give you an easy way to sign up for a payment plan with no interest. Moving on to the dashboard, just to highlight to the committee, or at the end of September, days cash on hand, this is line 9, it was 193 for water, 186 for sewer, similar to last month, ahead of our targets for debt service covenants. And then to highlight on service interruptions, line 25, for the month, we did 885 service disconnections versus 1,135 in September of 23. So again, those 2 days that were closed for the hurricane made that number smaller.
How many are we capable of doing?
We looked at the numbers. It depends a little bit on staffing. So we've been talking with Steve's team on the upping that, but I know we've had months there's a chart in the back, over 1,400, 1,000. So I think there is room there, and that's something very critical to the strategy with the smart meter turnoffs as well. But we've talked about adding some personnel and working with Steve's team to work within the days that are permissible, according to ordinance, but making it basically as efficient as possible to do more.
Does the disconnect include the subsequent reconnect?
Turn-ons
right?
are, different.
I was just
I don't
wondering
think it would.
if the 885 is a round trip, you got to turn off, you got to go turn back on, they pay, right?
Yeah, that's an additional, I guess, truck roll or labor.
Need those remote control ones.
On the debt, happy to report to the committee for our water LDH loan for the lead service line program. We've done our first draw for the cost of issuance, and all the official paperwork is closing on that loan. So that's a great, very beneficial to the utility to have that almost 50% debt forgiveness on the 80 plus million. And then we're also applying for the next tranche of 66 million for lead service line program. The other programs are continuing. I want to highlight where there's 78 million available for sewer state revolving fund loans for the sewer rehabilitation for the consent decree, as well as 39 million for the wastewater treatment plant. And just remind the committee, those are low interest rate loans, and that along with WIFIA, where we're paying at 1.85%, saving the utility, millions relative to if we had issued bonds in the open market and paid market rates for similar sized projects. So just we'll be continuing. We're looking for those creative financing opportunities.
Oh, that's great work too. And some of them, we don't even pay any interest till we draw it down and use it, right? Sorry about my voice.
That's right, it's on a draw basis. That also helps the management of the debt. Capital programs, in the month, we paid out capital invoices about 20 million. We had a small amount of new appropriations, 13,000 for the month, 189 million for the whole year. And then on the grants side, we received $3.6 million in FEMA reimbursements during the month of September. And this is our detailed schedule on the change orders, which Steve's going to talk about in detail. None of these changes are impacting our current year capital spending plans or next year. Before this, a different topic, but customer service, just to highlight, lower numbers in September, 40,592 customers served, and it came back up in October, 52,248 total for October. We've got some new personnel working with Susanna, customer service. Overall calls were down, wait time was up a little bit. And then our billing totals for the month, 136,000 bills. That number is even higher in October with some of the catch up for the 2 months, or 2 days we were off for the hurricane. In September, of those, 74% were actual reads on the bills. So we continue to work with Steve's team and Susanna on really a sort of weekly basis to prepare for the January 1 no estimates on bills, so that we have all the mechanical meters all read, so that we'll be in compliance with billing every month, the consumption. And then finally, the total payments, 96,527 for the month, a little lower than last month. And our total account past due talked about, and then this is our historical look at payment arrangements and service disconnects. So happy to answer any additional questions from the committee.
No other questions? We've covered a lot of ground here. Thank you very much. Great, now we're going to proceed with one action item, followed by 13 General Superintendent's recommendations.
Yeah, so Resolution 161 is for the arbitration program we refer to as created by the legislation. So this resolution is authorizing the utility to enter into the required agreement to gain the $500,000 legislative funding that was identified. That funding will come to SWIBNO, be passed on to the Louisiana Legislative Auditor. There's already a separate CEA with the LLA. They will be administering the arbitration program, will be selecting the actual arbiters and running the program. So we're looking to get this stood up as soon as possible, so we need to get this resolution to enter into the agreement. And again, this is the program that their customers or the utilities can access to appeal earlier first level action taken related to a customer billing issue. So thank you for the committee's vote to advance this resolution 161.
Do we need so we do. May I have a motion to approve resolution 161, 2024?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved, properly seconded. Is there any discussion? No. Is there any public comment?
No public comment.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We'll now have General Superintendent's recommendations. Steve Nelson, please take us through that.
Very good, thank you. We have a number of items on our agenda this morning, 3 contract awards or renewals, 1 contract amendment, 6 change orders by ratification, and 3 final acceptances. We'll go through each one of those groups and vote in globo as we go through the groups. The first is the contract awards and renewals, starting with Resolution R-136, 2024. This is the second renewal of contract 2022 SWB 27, which is for the furnishing of anhydrous ammonia to the Algiers and Carrollton water plants between the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans and Tanner Industries, Inc. That contract base value is $676,500. With the second renewal, that takes the total contract value to $2,029,500 and will extend the contract through December 6th of 2025. The next item is Resolution R-137, 2024. This is the second renewal of contract 2022 SWB 46, the furnishing of fluorosilicic acid to the Algiers and Carrollton water plants between the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans and Univar Solutions, Inc. That base contract value is $406,250. With the 2 renewals, that will bring the total contract value to $1,218,750 and will extend the contract through December 21st, 2025. The third item is the award of liquid polyelectrolyte under Resolution R-138, 2024. This is an award of contract 2024 SWB 67 for liquid polyelectrolyte between the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans and Polydyne, Inc. There were 2 bids received on October 11th of 2024, with Polydyne, Inc. being the low bidder at a price of $1,639,000. This contract, in its initial term, will last through December of 2025. These are all fairly straightforward renewals or awards for chemicals related to disinfection, coagulation, and/or fluoridation of our water system. Are there any questions?
May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Move to second. Move properly seconded. Is there any discussion? No discussion. Any public comment?
No public comment.
No public comment. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Very good. We have, moving on, 1 contract amendment under Resolution R-106, 2024 between the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans. This is Amendment 3, and Power Engineers, Inc. for professional engineering, construction administration, and inspection services on the West Power Complex program. We have 2 primary designers on this program, one being Jacobs, the other being Power. The funding for this amendment, and this is an amendment in the amount of $4,694,290 to their base contract of $9.4 million. We have had this funding identified under bond sales and fair share funds, but now that we have the funding for the construction program, which is that Department of Energy grant loan program that the state is working with us, the city as well, on the match funding to move forward with their resilience building, the building that will be out there on the power complex site, and then the final switchgear tying all of that drinking water system into the power complex. Now that we have the funding for construction on that, we can carry this contract forward with Power Engineers. Are there any questions on this amendment?
That's great.
And the funding is coming again from where?
The funding is coming from bond funding that was sold 2 years ago and fair share funds. So none of this is new money that we will have to look for. It's been set aside for this intended purpose. We just didn't want to move forward with pulling the trigger on this design component until the construction funding was identified. And this will extend the time of the contract through December 15th of 2026.
May I have a motion to approve contract amendment resolution R 106/2024?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Does this mean the drinking water won't be hooked up until December of '26?
So the drinking water, the switchgear for the drinking water will probably not be fully hooked up until sometime in 2026 because the lead time on switchgear is about 18 months. So we need to be able to get this out to bid immediately and get that ordered. And it's not a matter of having to manufacture it, it's just a matter of where we fall in line. So we need to get in line as soon as we possibly can.
Okay.
Now, the power complex in and of itself will add redundancy and resilience, but this really brings us down the home stretch.
Right. Any other discussion? Any public comment?
No public comment.
All in favor, please so signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. The next body that we have are contract change orders by ratification. There are 6 of those, and that starts with Resolution R 139/2024. This is ratification of change order number 8 for contract 1418 on the Carrollton Water Plant utility rack between the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans and M.R. Pittman Group, LLC. You will see later in the final acceptances, this is the last change order that we will have. That project is complete. And now is a great time to go out and take a look at that power complex project. The rack's done. All of the equipment except frequency changer 3 is on site and set. We took delivery on the turbine last week, so this is really exciting. This change order is in the amount of $334,926.71, which represents 2.3% of the overall contract value. DBE target was 20.2%, 21.8% was achieved. This will extend the contract through August 16th of 2024. And this change order was primarily related to the management of additional water that was leaking out of the chlorination basins, we believe, onto the project site, and also importantly, additional slab thickness around the piles that the contractor had to deal with. The next change order is under Resolution R 141/2024. This is a ratification of change order number 1 for contract 8166 for the repaving of open cuts in sidewalks and driveways resulting from the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans underground utility repairs between the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans and Wallace C. Drennan, LLC. This is the first and will probably be the last and only change order on this contract in the amount of $240,000. DBE participation target was 36%, 40.74% was achieved, and this will extend the contract through April of 2025. This contract was necessary so that we could drop our paving backlog. Again, we've gone from 3,000 open work orders middle of last year down to about 408 as of Monday. So we're really working and making great progress, and this is part of that contract.
What's the time look like on that from the cut to the repair?
So we've gone from an average of 101 days down to right around 40 right now. And the goal is to get down to 30 or less by year's end. And as we are reducing that backlog size, we do have some older jobs that were out there because they were part of a project that didn't move forward. So now they're coming back into the backlog, but we're really making great progress. And I do want to mention our networks personnel. The overall goal has been to utilize contractors to eat the backlog while building our internal crews to be able to keep up with it so that we don't have to spend additional funds every year. And Zone 7 has done a really, really good job of taking that on and keeping up with that backlog.
Steve, there's been a significant uptick in DBE participation in both these projects, the one before and this one. Is there any reason for that? Is this an anomaly or it's just?
We do have one other within this body that's a little bit lower, but I think we are putting an increased emphasis on making sure DBE participation is met. And if folks can't meet those goals that they're
That's what I'm
providing, it's
asking,
really
yeah.
solid reasons why. So that is a testament to our DBE office and the good work that they're doing. Because
Good
yes,
job.
we do need to be sure. That's
Good job.
a testament to Ms. Irma and her team doing
Good,
great
yeah.
work.
I just wanted to note that.
Thank you.
Citizens will be happy about the cuts too. Speed
Yes, getting those potholes fixed is a huge, huge deal for us. We want to stay focused on that into the next year. The next change order is a ratification of change order number 1 for contract 1407, the structural filter rehabilitation at the Sycamore Filter Gallery between the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans and Industrial Mechanical Contractors, Inc. This is another one. This change order is in the value of $64,332.67. That represents 2.6% of the original contract value of $2,446,288. And they had a DBE target of 20% and they achieved 28%. That will bring the contract completion to August 15th of 2024. The next change order, this is a ratification of change order 1 under resolution R150-2024 for contract 30251 Carrollton Basin number 10, sewer rehabilitation between the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans and BLD Services LLC. This is a fairly substantial change order in the amount of $732,795 out of a base contract value of $2.8 million. The reason for this change is primarily related to the increased depth of sewer mains and services that the contractor has to repair. So when you run into deeper main and services, the shoring is more difficult, the excavation takes longer, and then the restoration is also takes a longer time. This DB, yes,
Didn't know
sir.
that going in, so it's not as drawn or?
No, this is
wasn't drawn?
an unforeseen condition, unfortunately. The DBE target is 36.04%. They have to date achieved 33.66. The bulk of that should be made up, and they are doing well with their paving. So as they complete those repairs, we should see them get closer, but that is relatively close on that project. The next is a ratification of change order 6 under, on contract 1415 for the West Power Complex Foundations and Underground Package between the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans and M.R. Pittman Group LLC. This is under resolution R151-2024. This is a total contract change amount of $323,157.43. That coupled with the previous changes of $2.6 million brings the total change in the contract value to 8.8% out of an original contract of $33,622,255. They were shorter on their DBE percentage on this particular contract. Their goal was 36. They got to 24. There was a shortfall in the 3C properties, and so we'll be asking some questions about that, and that's part of the plan going forward. This brings the completion to November 18th of 2024. The primary reason for these changes is related to a conflict with a drain line on the site and also a change in our retaining wall from a precast to a sheet pile system. So again, all of those are necessary components. And this is another exciting milestone. We should have final completion shortly on this project. That's all the foundations. And again, things are really moving along out there at that power complex project. The final change order that we have under this group is a ratification of change order number 1 for contract 30255, Carrollton Basin number 14, sewer rehabilitation between the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans and Fleming Construction Company. This is under resolution R152-2024. This change order is in the amount of $387,412.67, representing 3.9% of the original contract value of $9.9 million. The DBE participation target is 43.6%. They have achieved 25.7% to date, but the sub that they're planning to use is Advantage Manhole and Concrete, which will primarily come towards the end of their project. So we will be asking some questions about that and making sure that they are using that restoration sub towards the end of the job. This does add some additional time, 149 days, extending the contract through July 10th of 2025, which is still in advance of our consent decree deadline of October. The reason for this change is primarily related to bypass pumping that's necessary because of surcharge in the system. So when you have lots of I&I, which the program is intended to reduce, you can have high levels, high flow levels, and if the pipe's not empty, it's hard to complete the work. So they have to have pumps on site to be able to reduce those levels. Those are the change orders. Are there any questions, comments?
What's I&I?
Infiltration and inflow. So when it rains, you can get flow coming in through manhole lids.
Oh, yeah.
You can also get groundwater coming in through cracks in the pipe. Great question.
Like the backflow problem, sort of. All right, may I have a motion to approve contract change order by ratification resolutions R-139, 2024, R-141, 2024, R-148, 2024, R-150, 2024, R-151, 2024, and R-152, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, any public comment?
No public comment.
Thank you. All in favor, please so signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, bringing us to final acceptance on several things.
Very good. Thank you. We have three final acceptances today. The first being under Resolution R-140, 2024. This is an authorization of final acceptance of Contract 1418 at the Carrollton Water Plant for the utility rack. This is the final acceptance of the change order approved earlier. This is between the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans and MR Pittman LLC. The next is authorization of final acceptance under Resolution R-147, 2024 for the closeout of Contract 8168. This is the repaving of open cuts in streets, driveways, and sidewalks resulting from the repair of Sewerage and Water Board underground utilities between the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans and CMG Pipelines LLC. I got to give a shout out to CMG. They did exceptional work. We did have a large number of change orders on that project, but that's because they were the lowest price of the contractors we had in place, and they also did fast work and did it well. They also had a DBE target of 36%, and they achieved 40.1. That completion date is actually November 16th of 2025, so that would be this week. The final acceptance is under Resolution R-149, 2024, authorization of final acceptance to Contract 1407. This is the change order we had earlier for the structural and filter rehabilitation in the areas of the Sycamore Filter Gallery filters 11, 12, 14, 16, and 17 between the Sewerage and Water Board of New Orleans and Industrial and Mechanical Contractors, Inc. Are there any questions on these final acceptances?
Have a motion to approve. This is, I'm sorry, I should have said R-140, 2024, 147, 2024, 149, 2024. Okay.
Second.
We have a motion properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Is there any public comment?
No public comment.
All in favor, please so signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We have two informational items for the committee review at their convenience. That brings us to the end of our agenda. Is there no further public comment? Do we have a motion? Is it a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Right on time. Move properly seconded. All in favor, so signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, everybody. On time start and finish. That's good.